welcome to the Webcomic Beacon Presents First Issue.
I'm Marcus.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Fes. This is the first video series that the Webcast Beacon Network is going to be doing for this particular show. You can check it out at firstissue.webcomicbeacon.com. What we're going to be doing is, this is the first time we're taking a look at print comic books, and we're going to be reviewing the new 52 from DC Comics that started in September of 2011 for our first run. The goal is to figure out and determine whether or not this new number one setting is going to be a good or a bad sell for new readers. Why? Because, they better be wanting new readers, and we're going to figure this out. I am incredibly new to... What are you guys doing back there?
What the fuck? Just keep going. These are beautiful.
All right, so the point is, I have read maybe 2 comic books ever before in my life, before now. And so I'm fairly a noob to this, and so I'm kind of like the catalyst here is we're going to be figuring out, can they get me? Are they going to get me? And Marcus, tell us a bit about your background.
You already got your money.
Well, yeah, it's over now, isn't it? Okay, yeah, well, my background, I write comics, and generally I've been into comics since I was... I'd say maybe 7 years old, and I started with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. From there into X-Men, and then I kind of transitioned to manga for a good, I'd say 10 years or so before I came back to American comics when someone kind of turned me on to some of DC's early 2000s work, Young Justice and Impulse.
And what kind of work have you done with comic books personally?
Writing mostly.
Anything professional?
Yes, there's Razor Kid, that series, and then there's also one that I can't quite talk about yet, but when it comes up, we'll definitely plug it.
Awesome. And Melissa,
yes,
tell us about your professional comic experience. Well, tell us about your comic experience and then your professional comic experience.
Well, I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s and mid 80s and late 80s and still working on that. But, I grew up in the era when there were comic TV shows all over the place. So, The Incredible Hulk and Wonder Woman, all that great stuff. So that got me hooked from an early age. But I didn't actually get into print comic books until adulthood, when I started living and working with Christopher Jones, Batman comic book artist.
Hell yeah, Chris Jones, nice guy. Continue.
Yeah.
We should get him on the show sometime.
We should.
Yeah.
But yes, I started coloring and lettering a few years ago.
Okay.
And so I have worked on Dr. Blink's Superhero Shrink with Chris Jones and John Kovalik of Dark Tower, and various other projects.
I have not a professional, as in I get paid for career. I have made my own. I am a web cartoonist, and I'm a podcaster. And anyone who's seen the show now probably saw me from the Webcast Beacon Network, the Webcomic Beacon podcast.
You better have.
Yeah, and nothing professional, but it's not like I haven't read comics at all. I mean, I grew up reading newspaper comics. Obviously, Calvin and Hobbes is one of my biggest favorites. And in 2005, I discovered webcomics. And in 2006, I started making my own webcomics because I thought I could do this, and it's like, no, I can't. But that's besides the issue.
Should we call this episode 0 because it has all of our backstory?
No, because it's coming out first.
It should be in the first issue anyway. Issue 0
should be in the
cop
first
out.
issue. And
I'm just kidding, you guys.
That's not
if
the
you do
issue.
0 issues,
This is the issue.
good.
We're going to be reviewing DC Comics #1, Justice League.
oh yes.
Ta-da.
All right, so there's going to be a basic scheme of what we're going to be doing here. We have to take a look at these #1s and think about a new reader that has never come across this before, even if they may be familiar with some of the other properties, especially when it comes to DC properties. There's going to be a lot of the animations and the movies that are going to be coming up in some people's minds. The idea of the #1 is to get more readers, obviously. That was their whole scheme to begin with, and especially you're going to want new readers as well as keeping the people that have already grown fond and familiar. And from what we've been hearing, it can get a little spicy. Spicy, dicey. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That sounds delicious.
But, so we're going to take a look at this cover right away.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna. This is the
Should we just save splice check so that you kind of get an idea?
splice.
There we go.
So with this cover, well, first I look at this. What the hell is this machine gun penis on the Green Lantern? That's what I see right away.
That I
Of course you see
didn't know.
penises.
It looked. I mean, it's like.
Leave him alone. He has to overcompensate for the fact that he's not Jon Stewart.
I don't know. I think it's a decent cover. If this is sitting on the shelf, it looks like everyone's kind of it's kind of muddled, but it's all like we're the Justice League.
Everybody looks so serious.
Well, of course. I mean, this is like the things you have to remember. They're trying to do two things here. On the one hand, they want to bring in new readers. That's why it's nice and bright and vibrant.
Right.
On the other hand, they want to bring in old readers. And a lot of those old readers are in their 20s to early 30s. Those people remember the 90s. These are designed very much like 90s comics, hence why you bring Jim Lee on board.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of the biggest names. And you can also tell kind of that they're trying to bring in people who are more new to the series because Batman is front and central. Superman is kind of up in the air where Captain Marvel might have been in years past. Somebody who, I mean, look at him. He's equivalent to Aquaman, according to this cover.
Well, Aquaman's kind of.
He's off to the side, but he's in the back. You know, he isn't someone who's front and center being featured as a, you know...
Well, really, front and center is
Front view.
Wonder Woman's boobs.
Well, really,
of course.
you
Once
really,
again, 90s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
all
see,
true.
you see Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern. They're kind of like the smack,
Yeah.
the quadrant.
The big diamond 4 in front.
Yeah, you see that because the movie just came out for the Green Lantern. You got Superman's on top, you know, and you got Wonder Woman, which you can see very well because of the skin, and then of course Batman. Look at how serious.
It's always Batman.
But yeah, so the cover looks pretty decent. We can agree on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Jim Lee's art. It's too scratchy to me. I mean, it
Aw.
doesn't bring out any dimension until you color it.
Right.
Oh.
Okay.
But that's my personal taste.
Okay.
It does have a lot of energy to the cover, and you know, I don't know what sort of physics are governing Wonder Woman's lasso, but you know, hey.
It's all right.
Yeah,
Like I said,
magic. Magic is governed.
Yeah, it's true. It's
She is a magical
lasso.
person. She
It's
is
magic. You don't have to explain it.
Oh, as though you know that reference.
It's been said in more than one place. I can use that reference. All right. So the initial reaction I had to this comic was it. Well, I personally thought it had good art and good lighting, and this is I'm used to reading webcomics, and so one thing I could tell you right away while reading this, it felt like I was doing an archive dive of a new webcomic I just found. So it's like I'm going through the archive, and it's like
the
I go
idea.
through it. So I don't normally read print, so it's like I'm looking at this, and I perceive there's some good like explosions and green flashy stuff. It's like, oh, that looks pretty good. And going through this, I could it's like I remember seeing some of the 90s Batman cartoons and this Justice League or whatever it was. And when I was reading this, I kept thinking how this would look in an animation.
Yeah. I can see that. That's the idea.
So what do you guys think? Like your initial reaction?
I think the story elements would work well as an animation, but the style definitely wouldn't. I mean, you'd have some poor Korean animators falling dead of heart attacks.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of the one advantage that a lot of print comics have, is that you can make the individual images of far higher quality than you could of full animation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my reaction to the art is that, like I said, I'm not a fan of Jim Lee's art or the, general 90s style. But to me, it's kind of scratchy. There's, the line work is kind of scratchy. The coloring is kind of mushy. It's kind of hard to easily discern some background elements. But there is some very nice inking work, some very interesting stuff going on with Batman's cape in a couple of panels, where there's some very nice brush work as he moves through the scene. And there's a lot of energy to it. So there's some good, some bad. That's the way I'm going to put it.
Okay.
Yeah, like for me...
Yeah, this stuff is great.
I mean, like for me, I tend to look at the writing in a comic first, as opposed to the art. The art for me is always a little bit secondary.
Well, you are a writer.
Comes with the territory. Well, it's okay. But what I really liked about the art, may I see? Is that the coloring was very vibrant, of course. And what they did with the Green Lantern is they gave him far more imaginative constructs than you ordinarily see. Where's a good example?
Yeah, I was looking at everything. It's like I thought he could do like a lot of different stuff, but it seems like, wow, he can do a whole lot more than I thought, and he can leave some stuff working not in his range. I didn't know he could do that.
One of my favorites here is they have a team of firefighters that he creates in order to put out fires that are destroying the place. When he's fighting the monster, he builds a giant fire truck, I believe, and
throws it at him.
Throws it at the guy. There are all these things that sometimes they don't tend to do with him. Like, he's like, to shield himself, he makes riot cops.
Yeah.
He has bats catching planes, gigantic construct bats catching planes.
Yeah, I just remember him. I remember Green Lantern from the cartoon where he's just like
circle, square,
like a globe to catch people and move them over there and move stuff, and you can fly with it. And I don't remember like all this stuff.
Yeah, which once again is a little bit having to do with animation versus what you can do in a comic book.
I suppose.
If you try to animate all that, they just kind of look at you and say, "We don't have the budget.
Yeah.
We'll be here for 3 hours just doing this one little sequence." So that's what I like about it. Just kind of a nice, a much more creative feel to the Green Lantern. Something that you might see with. I don't want to really bring too much continuity in it, but there's other Green Lanterns.
We can't. We cannot bring continuity into this because this is a number one.
Well,
we don't know. We can't assume.
I'm not assuming
other than
anything.
What the number one tells us.
The only thing I'm telling you is that this is something that another character who was a Green Lantern, who was an artist, would do constructs more like this. Like it's not like a criticism.
Okay.
I think it's fine. I like that.
Okay.
Because I wish that all of them would do things like this, as opposed to what you see in the cartoons sometimes, which are more simplified shapes, like geometric shapes and things like that.
All right. So, as far as how this story plays out here, I actually really like the play between Batman and the Green Lantern a lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
the character dynamic is very interesting, man. Be interested to see how that plays out.
And at the very end, they meet Superman for like a page or something like that.
Well, you
It's
have
a
to-
very big page.
Yeah, it's a
It's like, I could have been one panel, but that's
It is one panel.
Yeah.
It's just a very big panel.
well, page, one panel, whatever. But the point is, this game.
Although I love the juxtaposition of the Superman full page splash against the giant ad for Aquaman, because I initially turned the page and thought Aquaman had shown up.
That's the thing with these ads. That's the only thing that really got me when I was skipping through it. It's like, what the hell is this?
It's
ads?
Aquaman!
Yeah.
Well, it's like I'm reading webcomics, so like I never like turned the page and there's a full page ad. So that kind of threw me. It's like, wait a minute. Oh, okay, right. There's ads.
yeah. You're kind of used to that.
But with this, there's a couple of problems I had with this whole story. Okay, the Green Lantern comes in, and I guess he heard about Batman, thought it was just rumors, and is like, oh, Batman's real, and he knows about Batman. So obviously none of these characters have met yet that were on the cover. In fact, only 3 of the people out of the 7 people on the cover are in here. Wrong. You didn't do it right. To me, I think that's false.
Well, I think it's fair on Justice League, just so you know what characters are going to be coming into play later.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea here is it reminds me very much, and here's my manga side again, of Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon always advertised all 5 of the initial Sailor Scouts, like when you would see the beginning of it. And what would happen is it took,
I'd be like
maybe
spoilers
20
at that point.
Basically, but the thing is, you have to advertise that you have more than one character. You want to be able to know that this is a big team book.
Okay.
And so with Sailor Moon, they
Eventually.
introduce all these characters individually. Like they would have Mercury would come in, and she'd be there alone with Sailor Moon for like 2, 3, 4 episodes.
Okay.
And Sailor Mars, and they would slowly build up the team that you saw at the intro.
Okay.
Or at the beginning of everything.
All right, I can
Although
see that.
this is going to be the total biggest cock tease for an Aquaman fan.
Yeah. Wait, there's Aquaman fans? Like marine biologists?
There are
Aquaman's
people who
badass,
like,
man.
Sure he is. Sure he is.
Super Friends ruined that poor bastard. That's not his fault.
Yeah,
It's
Super
real.
Friends is nobody's fault except for, well,
The people.
who made Super Friends.
Well, they didn't have all the blame. They
that's true.
they didn't have too much creative control. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. That was my biggest point. Overall, I am kind of interested in see where this will go. It seems like a decent enough intro for a new reader, but they're gonna think it's like, wait a minute, I thought this was Justice League, not Batman, or Batman Green Lantern.
You're gonna hear-
but it
you're
seems
gonna
like a
hear it a
decent
lot.
team up startup, and you can see it's starting to go there. I could probably recommend this for somebody to check out.
Oh, certainly. This was in my top 3 of the 52 that I've read so far.
All right, so final verdict: succeeds, meh, or fail.
I put succeeds.
All right,
I say succeeds.
I'd say succeeds.
I'd say succeed as well. DC Comics #1, Justice League.